Hey everybody, it's been about 8 days since our last video about Tory Lanez and the letter he received from his attorney Shawn Holley previous, and we got a bunch of comments on the last video. So what I want to do is I'm going to try and do it live. We're just going to go over the comments in the video, and we're going to talk about it and see what the best ones are, which ones I agree with, and which ones are Looney Tunes off the charts crazy. Okay, here we go. If Troy was innocent, the driver would have been the first witness because he was probably the only person sober that night. I think it would have been the first person, but it would have been the first witness for the defense. I think that's absolutely true. I don't think there's a way to say that's anything less than true. I got to do all this with my finger. Okay. If Tory was the innocent, the driver would have been. Okay, wait. Fuck me. The driver and Holley were willing to lie for Tory. Nothing has worked in Tory's favor because he's guilty. It's funny hearing you read the comments from the crazy fans. I'm not saying that, but they are. If they pursue the charges for witness tampering, bribery for Tory, his fans are going to need therapy. Well, looks like that's where it's going. Here we go. Finally, someone with common sense. The fact is he had nobody to testify on his behalf is telling. Okay, so you're never required to have witnesses testify on your behalf. Not all of us have that. But in this case, where the defense is that other people were shooting and you do have an eyewitness who's standing there listening, it is very suspect that you don't bend over backwards to have that witness come testify. If you are going to say this witness can slam dunk say you're not guilty, normally you want them to do it. That's not something you leave to doubt. So it always leaves a question in the mind. If you don't call the witnesses, is that an issue there? Okay. I know of someone who could definitively say, I didn't shoot a gun. They're testifying come hell or high water, particularly 3 other people put the gun in my hand. 100%. Marie Lovely is correct. The only eyewitness testified for the defense. What do you mean? Yeah, but he put the gun in Tory's hands. So did he really testify on his behalf? So that's a good point. When witnesses testify, we say they testify on behalf of one or the other, but the simple truth is they don't. That's not the way it is. You just testify, and you're supposed to just testify to the truth. You're not supposed to testify on someone's behalf. And if you are shading your testimony in order to benefit someone or not, the jury can usually smell that. And if the jury can smell that, they're not going to like it. So that's absolutely correct. Oh, wait, here we go. He changed the story mid-trial after meeting with the prosecutors. Oh, this is about Sean Kelly. The original story saw 2 women. Okay, so this is the thing. There's always a difference between the written statement that you take at the scene or subsequent and the oral statement you give during court. That's why you have the constitutional right to confront witnesses. That's why the issue is there. So you have that ability. Now, which one will a jury believe? That's up to the jury. It depends how the questions come out. It depends how the answers come out. The driver was ready to testify and showed up to court. The prosecutors didn't want him to testify because of what they told him the truth. Quan remained on his stance and Tory being innocent. Holley got bought. Okay, there's no proof to me that Holley got bought out by Jay-Z. And I think there's a comment later that I think we need to get into as far as what is a conflict of interest in a case like this. But if there is a conflict of interest, if Shawn Holley has a conflict of interest with Tory, then you want her off the case. You don't want Tory to communicate with her, have her negotiate part of the case, or to argue any part of the case. So I have a real hard problem with them saying because of Shawn Holley, there's a conflict of interest, but the fact that she didn't cooperate in the defense of the case later somehow prejudiced him. Either you're prejudiced because there's a conflict, or you're prejudiced when there's not. I don't understand how you're prejudiced because the person you claim has a conflict of interest then says, well, we're not going to talk about it and don't ask me anything. I don't want to do anything about this case with you. His lawyer, Shawn Holley, literally said the jury would never believe Tory or his driver. I don't know if she said that exactly, but yeah, that's basically what she said. Shawn Holley's a fraud and took Tory's money and disappeared last minute to a show called Reasonable Doubt. Okay. So I'm not familiar with Reasonable Doubt. I haven't seen it. That being said, is it a conflict of interest? Jay-Z and Roc Nation, even if they're invested in Meg heavy, are not a party to this case. So technically on the books, there's not a conflict of interest. If there is a conflict of interest, the ramifications for that is Shawn Holley has to pull out of the case, not be a part of the defense of the case. She did that. So if the question is, did she have a conflict of interest? Why are we arguing so hard that she didn't cooperate with defending the case at the point the conflict of interest arose? I just don't understand the train of thought that says she's bad because there was both a conflict of interest and then stopped communicating or stopped helping out the defense. Shawn Holley has been updated. She's been working with Jay-Z and Roc Nation with, okay. So again, she has to pull out. If that's true, I don't know that that's true. People are saying it is. So she did the right thing and she wasn't part of the defense of the case from that point going forward. Now, as to the money, if that's the issue, someone had just said she's a gold digger. That's negotiation based on the contract and negotiation we have with the client. Should you? I mean, there's ethical issues and there's moral issues. It's how you want to run your business. But if she put the work up until that point, she gets paid for the work she did. Someone build 3/4 of your house and then you decide to go with a different home builder. It's not that they just don't get paid for 3/4 of the house. There's got to be a negotiation to figure out how much they get, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe he said Shawn Holley pulled out of the case before. That was incorrect. I read all the news. What I meant by pulled out, I think I understand what you're talking about. What I meant by pulled out is she stopped cooperating. She said, you guys run the case. I can't do that defense. I don't think that defense is going to win. But if you want to do it, that's what I meant by pull out. I didn't mean literally file the motion and pull out later. So under the letter of that, I don't remember exactly what I said, but that's what I meant when I said she pulled out from it. Tory had a gag order for years before the trial. He couldn't say anything, but yet the liars like the press tour lying about him. He wasn't allowed to respond. Okay, let's talk about gag orders. I personally am very much against gag orders in criminal cases. I don't think they should exist generally in business like that. And to me, that includes naming the witnesses. I generally think the witnesses should be named. I think if there's a face, I mean, maybe there's an issue for minors, but if there's a face, this is news. It's public. You have a right to publicly face your accuser. That's all true. So I'm not in favor of a gag order, so to speak, in this case, if there was one in this case. That being said, and look at how different the Jonathan Majors case is, which we have to talk about soon. The Jonathan Majors case, basically they're trying it in the press in any number of other ways. And it's real interesting the way they're trying it in the press differently than what they would do in court. Because what they would do in court, a lot of what you're seeing, if they weren't trying it in the press, I don't think they would be doing. We'll discuss that too in the future. Oh, I got to keep my finger on this. So, but yeah, maybe there should have been a gag order. But I think also part of that is because he kept talking about her, and it was basically the function of almost a TRO. Didn't he show up at a concert she was at, and he made the rap song, which purportedly was about her cutting meat and talking about hooves or some nonsense. Okay. She wouldn't take the new attorney's phone call. She stayed on the case until January 10th. She's still getting paid from Tory. If you do the work, you still get paid. I don't know. I mean, you can always do it. What about just... Okay. F her lying ass, period. She started the entire night aggressively. She's the bully. Tory never touched the gun. I just can't get there. I can't get to Tory never touched the gun. I don't know how people keep saying that. I don't. There's no permutation of evidence, fact, or witnesses that make me think that Tory never touched the gun in this case. She lied out of her own mouth. And yeah, but this is the thing. When Megan, I think Megan testified credibly. None of us were in the courtroom, but it sure seems the jury agreed with what she said. While Megan did lie about things like were she with him on Gayle King, things of that nature, these are the type of things we sort of expect people to lie about. And when she came to court, she owned up to it and bought it 100%. On the other side, what you had was Kelsey's testimony, where she testified very, very differently in both the discussion she had with the prosecutor, the text message that said Tory shot Meg, and then what she ended up saying in court, which seemed to be a scrambling for any way to get out of there. She really didn't want to be there, right? Tory's extremely articulate. The DA said if he took the stand, he would use rapidly. Okay, Quan was not missing. He came to Kelsey is the shooter. So these are just a bunch of assertions. I believe you, Tory's extremely articulate, but the rap lyrics can use against him in the same way where if, let's say, Shakespeare stood trial for sex assault on a minor, they could use the plot line of Romeo and Juliet and say, didn't you write this? Didn't you talk about love between these 13-year-olds? Didn't you? Now, Is that persuasive? It's up to the attorneys to argue and the jury to decide. I hate to keep coming back to that, but that seems to be the hang-up in this case, is that the jury of public opinion doesn't agree with the jury of the people who saw the evidence and sat through the evidence in court. Personally, as far as Kelsey being the shooter, you really have to do a leap of logic to get there. Okay. Big difference between articulate court and controlled environment, like an interview, between your code. Yeah, I agree with that. Quan showing up to testify. We all remember this. They asked McDeasy if they wanted him to testify. There was going to be some scheduling conflict. It would have continued after, I think it was after a holiday, but it would have continued after a particular point. He said he didn't want to do that. I cannot believe if Quan put the gun believably in anybody else's hand, you wouldn't continue the case a year to get that done. I just don't think so. I especially someone like Medizian, who seems to have more than enough experience. I know he's getting a bad rap, some people think, for this case, but he seems to have more than enough experience. He would know that you need to put that on and not just put it off that, oh my God. I don't buy that he bought into the same sort of DJ academics, who are that employment lawyer, these guys who didn't really know the standard of proof and ran with it and told everybody it was a slam dunk. Look at all the evidence they had. Okay. He's articulate, period. The attorney told the DA said they will use, the attorney didn't tell that. The judge said it from the bench. The judge looked at him and told him. Judge already approved that they can. He gets to the stand. Guess what? Right after his verdict, state of California put it in effect. Did they pass the law in California? I did not know that. That's wild. This is the thing. I think you can use it, but it's like any art. Like if you make a lot of paintings of bloody dead people and someone shows up and looks like your painting and they use that to say, this is your plan. This is your blueprint. I don't understand how they can't use it against you. It sure seems like they would be able to. Now, if you're putting on a show, your attorney would then show that you're putting on a show. You remember a long time ago, Ice Cube, for example, would come out and say things like, I'm putting myself in the character of people who go to prison or shoot people. I'm just talking about what I see in the street. It just makes a better story if I put myself in their shoes, and that's the way I do it. So there's a way to get around the fact that you're using those type of lyrics and using that against you. If he's stupid enough to rap about the shooting, that's on him. The prosecutor should be able to use those lyrics against him. You keep harping on how articulate he is, but he wasn't smart enough to listen to his lawyers. They told him to keep quiet and stay out of trouble. I can't argue with any of that. How does articulated turn into not listening? I refuse, please. Like, okay, we're just slamming each other. I'm not super interested in that. I'm not taking a damn plea if I didn't do anything. That's fair. And you can't. I mean, actually, that's a rule we have in my jurisdiction is if you're not willing to basically agree that you did it, then you can't take a plea. The attorney has to tell you can't plead to something you didn't do. Generally, I don't want to say 1,000%. Generally. Both women decided there was a fight. Kelsey and Megan were both covering for each other. It's also possible that Shawn Kelly just misunderstood. I don't understand we put all this faith in Shawn Kelly's testimony. But then clearly, he said he was distracted, wasn't looking at the whole thing, didn't know any of the people there. Roc Nation, Meg's PR had to blame Tory to save Meg's image and their bottom line. No. If Meg said Kelsey did it, the question would be why. And what was the motive behind it? The motive is Meg went against everything her brand stands for. She snaked her best friend. She's not without feeling. She claims I saw. Okay, I don't know about any of this. The witness says she told police that he saw muzzle flash come from a woman. He had no reason to lie or switch up his story. Yeah, but he could have been mistaken. He could have been looking in the other room when he heard the first sounds. He had to hear something in order to draw his attention to him. It's not unheard of that people hear the gunshot and then later testify they saw the whole thing. They saw the first gunshot when they really didn't, for example. Story was never about what actually happened that night. It was banking on useful idiots in the court of public opinion by making Meg a victim to win the case. I mean, it's, I guess, an opinion you're allowed to have. I'm not going to say you're not allowed to have it. Spot on. Okay. Well, someone supports her. Thank you. My only question for your next video, if Kelsey actually shot Megan, why would the lawyer think telling the truth isn't a viable strategy to go with? And I answered this one in text. I wasn't going to. I think you answered your own question. And I think Mr. Gold, my reactions, I think he was sort of making a point rather than asking a question, quite frankly. I think it's because Kelsey didn't do it, because the case is about, I don't know what that even means. Yeah, but it's hard to prove both face lie in court. That's actually true, especially with a sociopath. But is that who we had here? I don't know that there's any proof that that's what Meg is. You get the useful idiots. Meg was playing victim after she was shot. Above all the back and forth, the net is we all got information about this case. Some of us gathered that info and agreed with the jury that based on we quote believe Peterson. Others believe I don't know. He had a gag order. Do you understand why he had the gag order in the first place? Yeah. So this is the important part. They didn't just put him under a gag order. He was talking all the time, which is why they ended up having to do that. Why there's a gag order on him. When we was able to go on live television to talk about what happened. So the more statements a person makes, usually the better for the other side. That's the general rule. If you go on and we saw it in this case, the statements Tory made, they said they were going to use against him. And because of that, he felt like he could not testify, which was absolutely, we can't say it was the right decision looking back, but had he testified, he would have been destroyed by the prior statements. As to Meg, they used the statement she made to Gayle King to accuse her of lying. So 100%, absolutely, there's that as well. If you're a victim, why are you lying about what took place that night? So there's no one way a victim acts, right? Here's the thing. Sometimes, I had one case, I don't want to get into too specifics, but I had one case where a guy was accused of basically abusing his wife. It was more than abuse, but it was very serious. And his alibi, well, the reason why he wasn't, the person who was going to testify to it, was his girlfriend. So there's obviously a reason why he has to really wrestle with, is he going to come to court and say, I couldn't have attacked my wife. I was with my girlfriend. And then is that even believable? Because if you have a girlfriend and you have a wife, are people believing that your girlfriend won't lie for you when you hurt your wife to the point where, anyway, do people lie even when they're a victim, even when yeah, all the time. They're embarrassed about what happened. They're embarrassed about what could happen. They're embarrassed about what's going to happen. Did she or did she not get shot? She's indeed a victim. Well, she got bullet fragments. A lot of people are trying to draw a line between bullet fragments and a bullet. I don't really see too much of a difference. He started running his mouth, and when she responded, I think you're going to run out to ignore misimportant. She was shot, and Tory knew she was injured by gunfire. But yet he was playing in everybody's face, publicly questioning if she was ever shot when she knew she was. She was shot at, which is the crime. She was hit with fragments, yes, but the witness says he saw muzzle flashes from a woman. The same woman denied there was a fight between her and Meg. Why are we acting like there's potential other suspect? Because Meg said he shot her, the jury believed it. Okay. He said the muzzle flash appeared to be coming from the closest to the woman, but that the same witness actually put the gun in Tory's hands. That's true. You mean to tell me in those 3 to 4 seconds it took to fire off those 5 rounds, Shawn Kelly couldn't see the gun in Kelsey's hands, but could in Tory's? That's because Tory had the gun the whole time. He was just behind her when the first shots were fired. Yes, that's the problem. He did put the gun in Tory's hands. After speaking to the prosecutor, that is not what he said in his initial report to police denied the incident. That's what you're missing. If witnesses speak to the prosecutor in criminal cases, stop acting. Yeah, no. So he spoke to the prosecutor. That's super common. Now, should he change his story 100%? No. Do they sometimes clarify their story subsequently because they understand what's the important questions they're going to be told about? Yes. And here's the thing. If there's a previous statement that says something different, the defense attorney or the prosecutor can use that to cross-examine him to say, haven't you changed your statement? Wasn't this when you were closer in time? Didn't you talk to the prosecutor in difference? And the jury then gets to weigh that the same way when you're asking your boyfriend, for example, if he's cheating on you and he calls someone to make an alibi, you want to know, well, did he call you before I asked you? Are you just his alibi or did you have to plan this out? Did he call you and ask you what it was? Things of that nature. So let's see what else we got. What would be his reason to tell? I mean, it doesn't always have to be a lie. There's a lot of reasons people don't tell the truth. There's misunderstandings. There's lack of perception. There's inability to perceive. There's all sorts of reasons that are not blatant lies. Okay, where is the accusation for the defense for prosecutorial misconduct, suborning perjury? And it never happens. I mean, and you need a prosecutor to prosecute. So good luck with that happens. If you don't find it weird that Kwan also would have never cooperated, I don't know what that means. Yeah, so these are all good, correct? For Tory to even waive his rights and have his client lawyer info out must mean he has nothing to hide. So that's a total leap of logic. That's for saying he's waiving his rights to have his client lawyer info out means he has nothing to hide. Well, that's not what it means. It means he has to scramble to get something and he's doing anything he can to get what he's looking for. I don't get that in any way that shows that he has nothing to hide. Okay, only one. I got two more comments left. I'm gonna let my wife take care of the kid, and we're gonna figure these out. Only one person was tested for DNA. They never tested the victim for GSR. So it's rare that you don't test the person who got hit for a gunshot residue. Normally you would because you want to know how close they were at the point they were shot or if they were shot. Here they found bullet fragments in her foot, so there's no question that she was shot. I think this is the Life Tiago? Is this the person who's saying that Megan shot herself? This is the looniest theory I've heard. I don't know if this is them or someone else, but that Megan shot. Oh, here you go. More fan fiction. Oh wait, get that big again. Make that full size. And no, okay. At no point has anyone even tested the role that Megan shot herself or even handled the gun. Tory spent the better part of 2 years questioning if Megan was even shot when he knew the whole time that she was. And in the opening statement, McDeasian said that she was shot, so or that she had bullet fragments in her foot. I apologize, but that's what it is. You say anyone from okay here. The women were motivated to act aggressively towards each other. Okay, so you could beat someone up without shooting them. I don't understand how that's even an issue. We pretty much know what happened here. So all that being considered, if Meg had bullet fragments in her feet, there's more reason to believe it happened as a result of either woman firing. No, that's no. Likely Meg, but possibly Kelsey more than even or likely Tory. As well, many of the people who don't believe the Tory shot Meg story, but also believe the fire gun caused bullet fire shooting to Meg's feet at all. Many people believe Meg stepped on glass, as she originally disclosed, and her team originally reported. People believe the reason the story had to be spun is because the gun belonged. So this means, if this paragraph is true, the medical examiners are somehow in on it. That somehow Roc Nation or somebody got to the medical examiners and made them lie about finding bullet fragments in the feet, and then made, I believe it was the police or the medical examiners, the police lie about losing the bullet fragments that were lied about being found in the foot and turned over to the police. If you're going to make accusations like that, you really want some kind of proof. Like, it's just not believable to me. And I've seen any number of these cases. Fabricated Tory shot Meg's story was to place blame on Tory by framing him. Now, when Meg's team first got Meg to start introducing the story that she was shot, Meg was implying she was shot. Now, Meg's teams first got Meg to start introducing the story that she was shot. Meg was implying that she was shot as the bullets were fired into both of her feet. Where did I lose my place? She applied this online post to IG Lives. I think people are making too big a deal of the difference between bullet in the foot and bullet fragment in the foot. Honestly, I think it's the type of thing you just say. There's baby. By the time the clarification came out that bullet fragments and not bullets were taken out of Meg's feet, Tory had put out his IG Live. And in it, he raised questions about how Meg could have been shot, as it ended up with bullets in her feet that didn't break tendons. Tory's IG Live was related to how Meg and her team allowed the story to get out to the public and in the initial story. Her being shot was indicated by bullets being removed from her feet during surgery, not bullet. I think you're making a mountain out of a molehill that doesn't exist. I think it's not that big a difference. I think people get the difference, and I think medical examiners or police can use the words bullet as a shorthand for bullet fragments, honestly. Two very different things and by ways of interpreting a person being injured and fired a gun. Shortly after Tory's IG Live, he was slapped with a gag order and didn't speak on the case directly at all. The way up to it, including the trial, outside of what he put in his day. Well, so he spoke about it. Outside of what he put in the day style. So what you're saying is not accurate or truthful. Wait, what is this? Who are we attacking? Anyone? So what you're saying is not... Okay, here we go. Speak on the case. So what you're saying is not accurate or truthful. It lacks context and nuance. For the better part of 2 years, Meg and her team misled the public by allowing people to believe that Tory shot Meg. Story which included references of bullets, not fragments, having to be taken out of her feet, that resulted in fragments still being in there. When, by the time trial came, it was disclosed that bullet fragments alone were taken from feet. Still being there. When the time trial came, it was disclosed that bullet fragments alone were taken from the feet. You're making too big a difference. X-rays were brought to court to support that bullet. Yet, no hard evidence of bullets, bullet fragments, or even the gun were brought to court in support of the Tory shot Meg story. Convenient. You said a whole lot of nothing. I kind of agree with that. Yes, by Tory side, I meant his legal team. Duh, his goofy fans don't matter. Well, what matters is that actually litigated... You literally made all of that up. Correct. All the evidence should have been in court, like how they have it in the Melly case, all evidence. So, yeah, that's ideal, but it's not common. All these cases are screwed up. All of them. You remember the reason why O.J. Simpson really won his case? It was the first case where the attorneys were able to. I have no idea what she's doing back there. I do not know what my family is doing back there that they need to do just this minute to make a ton of noise. I do not know. I really do not care about the fact that I'm trying to teach the world about legal issues at all. Okay. Because they didn't bring it up in court doesn't mean that it wasn't a consideration. My point is you're being misleading saying that nobody from Tory's legal team entertained the idea that Meg shot herself. No, people are talking about it all the time. Okay, I don't want to read all this. All right, let me go take care of my family right now. I think we went through most of this. Here we go. It doesn't matter if it was a consideration if they didn't bring it up in court. That's it. Okay. I don't think she had any bullet fragments at her body at all. So again, how many people would have had to lie in this chain of custody for that to happen? A user fired the gun and not shot. By the time trial came around, I think we all understand DA's convicted Tory of firing the gun. Yes. They also convicted him of assault and possession. The injury that they claim Meg sustained as a result of Tory negligently firing the gun was related to a bullet from the gun hitting the ground. The metal fragments from it. Yes, that's a picture of her. The fragments didn't come out of the gun and hit her directly in the feet. That would make... Okay. If he injures their claims she sustained were the result of one or more bullets hitting the ground near her, they never explained the forensics around this in court, mind you. It'd be possible that Meg fired the gun herself. No. She would fire the gun into the ground and it would shoot up into her. No. No, that's not possible. That doesn't... No. No. That doesn't make any sense at all. How are you guys telling me she shot the bullet into the ground and it popped up? Marcus knows you could. Wait, Marcus knows you can't do that. Even he knows that doesn't make any sense. What? You don't want to know anything about this. This is crazy. Tory shot Meg Story. Either believe he shot bullets into her, bullet fragments into her. But my understanding of the charge is there are two separate charges that depend on. One was, of course, him holding the gun, but he had to have held the gun if he did the shooting. One was him shooting, and it was possible that had he shot, it could have been the problem. That was the first one. Well, let me look it up because I want to get the right thing. I don't want to say the wrong thing. Do you hear the belly hitting your feet? So, shot because the broad code definition for shot includes many different examples, not only a bullet being fired into the person. That's not a technicality. That's the law. I mean, like, it's not a mystery as far as that stuff goes. Okay. Cases isn't over if you're not still here a year and a half later still arguing about the case. People still argue about Lizzie Borden, man. Here we go. The case has been over for almost 30 years. Argue about it doesn't undo. Yeah, O.J. Simpson. Here we go. None of the testimonies were consistent or matching. Prosecutors never presented any hard evidence. Okay. One last time for the cheap seats, just so everybody gets it. The jury can believe or not believe anything put before them. If they see it, they can believe it or they can choose not to believe it. At the point they decide what they believe or what they don't believe, then they look at the law. And if what they hear matches, and what they believe matches what the law disallows, you're guilty. Doesn't matter the number of witnesses. It doesn't matter the depth of evidence. As long as There's an accusation which the jury believes, and that makes it proof, right? There's two types of proof. Tangible proof, that would be like bullet fragments, which I know were lost in this case, but it would be like bullet fragments or the actual gun if the gun was presented. And testimonial evidence. So testimonial evidence is Meg getting on the stand, even if you think she's a liar, even if you don't believe her. That's evidence. And if the jury believes that evidence becomes proof. That's it. So I appreciate your time as always very much. This one went a little bit longer than usual. And my family was screaming. But all that being said, thank you guys. And let's talk about Jonathan Majors next, because that case is wild.